as a representative for somebody, a district that has an airport, we need to actually support general aviation.
Yes,
I know that people don't know what a big deal that is, but we're an island. So the only way you can get here is flying or by ship. And really, when you don't support general aviation, that means that we don't have a component of the airports that we need to fund it. I have guys out in Kailua that would gratefully put in their own money to build infrastructure, but they do not want to work with Department of Transportation Airports Division. They have literally packed up their airplanes and moved back to the mainland because they said, we cannot handle these guys. When I first got elected, DOT airports raised the rental prices, which is the tie downs and your T-hanger prices. Yeah. They raised it 435% in 1 month.
Yeah, and I don't think most people understand how important general aviation is to the island. I really don't think they understand how important that is.
And we don't even have a pipeline of pilots that are getting ready, mechanics that are getting ready. We have 2 huge hangars in Kailua Airport, Hangar 110, and we have another one on the side that are vacant.
They're sitting empty. They're sitting empty now.
Vacant. And guess what? The Department of Education at the federal level actually has jurisdiction over this because it used to be an aviation school.
That I didn't know. See, that I didn't know.
It's not actually DOT Airport's federal division. It's the Department of Education federal.
I didn't know that.
I called them and I talked to them about it, and they said, really, you know, you guys can do whatever you want with it, but the reason why Department of Education has it is because UH had an aviation school there.
I see. Okay.
And so we really need to get these aviation schools, like what you said about vocational training. If you don't have training programs for those professions, you will not have those professions.
Exactly. So instead of going and studying left-handed puppetry, you can study something you can actually use and implement, whether it's aviation or whatever the vocations are. It's incredibly important.
Well, and if we don't have people that are ready to work as mechanics on these airplanes, where do you think you're going to fly out of? I mean, who's going to go be a mechanic for Hawaiian Airlines or for Air Alaska?
Without a crew chief and mechanics, the planes don't leave the ground.
I mean, there are some people who are very concerned that we are not actually producing the professions that we need, and that's why we constantly have to outsource in Hawaii. Go get the parts for the zipper mobile outside.
You remember that fiasco?
But everything that we need is not here anymore.
That's right.
People should be concerned. The guys who work at Pearl Harbor, they actually told me, Andrea, as governor, you think you could make one store that sells parts for boats? Just one store. Because if we could actually get the parts for our ships here, it would save us a lot of money.
Yeah, because that's an issue. That's an issue in dry dock. That's an issue in other ships that they can't get the parts. They come off island and the boats are down.
Right. And then you gotta wait weeks for it. The same thing with the Zipmobile. If we don't have guys that actually can build those parts and fix the things that we have here, even the aircon unit at one of my elementary schools in Nanakuli, all the parts for the aircon unit can only be bought in the mainland.
Yeah, and it's more expensive, it's more time consuming, and it becomes more problems. And who's suffering, by the way? Not the politicians, the kids.
I know.
So the next thing I want to talk to you about, and then we'll talk. And I promise we'll talk about the outer islands. I don't want people are like, "Oh, you're leaving us out." We're not leaving you out. I love you guys, and Andrea loves you guys too. So roads, they're a mess. I'm a car guy. I love cars, and it's a hot mess. I said this like 5 times, right? Andrew's going to fix this. But you drive on the roads now, and they're a disaster. It's dodging potholes. And we don't have snow. We got a lot of rain. At least we do. I'm on the east side, so we have a lot of rain. But you might not on the west side. Although you guys had some this week. What do we do?
When people say that, like, oh, it's because of the weather in Hawaii, I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you know that in other states it snows, it sleets,
Yeah, it's not the weather. Well, I'll let you answer this, not me.
I mean, we live in a state where it's basically the same temperature all year round. You cannot tell me that it's because we have harsh weather conditions here.
Yeah, we got a little bit of rain. Oh my God! No, there's the potholes. My gosh, sinkholes. And there's a sinkhole on my street in Kailua 2 days ago.
Well, and when the sitting governor started his term, the Department of Transportation Highways Division had $950 million that they hadn't spent down in federal funds.
Okay.
To date, they've gotten it down to about $450 million. But can you imagine that we have $450 million
just sitting out there,
just waiting, because it hasn't been dedicated to a project, it hasn't been assigned out. I just don't understand, with the condition that our roads are at, how we're not spending every single dollar.
Yeah, and if you drove here from the west side on H1, you know what I'm talking about. My gosh, look at this. How is this a highway? It's such a mess. I complain about the poly because I live in Kailua and I drive it every day. But when I go to the west side, dear God.
I mean, and can you imagine if we actually use those federal dollars, how much more jobs we would be creating?
Yeah, and so not only are we creating better infrastructure, not only are we making a better life for the people in our community who use these roads every day, we're doing what? We're creating jobs, and it's amazing because when we create jobs, people get paid. People then take that money and we can raise them up. They put more money into the economy, and things start just snowballing and snowballing and snowballing, and everyone wins. But you'll lose, and the money just sits there because you have inept people who don't understand how to utilize this or don't care. I don't know if it's don't care or don't know how, but it's been like that for years. I've got to start questioning it, Andrea.
Oh yeah, and some of the employers at Campbell Industrial that I work with, they've actually employed homeless individuals because they said, we got work. We got work. They can come in. They can help us out. And really, when you talk about education and changing lifestyles or your behaviors, that's part of solving the homeless crisis as well, is actually providing work.
Because there's a great place to go when you're broke. A job.
Right?
There's a great place to go when you're broke.
And
a job.
It changes your life
Right.
when you actually have a purpose.
That's right. And so instead of sitting and having no purpose, you're motivated because you see the fruit of your labor. You're going and you're putting in the hours and you're working and you're getting paid, and all of a sudden you can support your family. And an amazing transition happens when that light bulb goes out that I'm doing this on my own. I'm not relying on anyone else. I'm self-sufficient. And I always talk about changing family trees and being able to change someone's trajectory or their destination in life. And sometimes it can be as simple as employment or a job.
And I really think we need to put some of these homeless individuals that have actually excelled, they've changed their lives, and now they're working, and now they're actually living in a home. I feel like those are the kind of people that should be leading these homeless initiatives.
Absolutely, because
People
they've been there.
Yeah.
They've been there.
They can actually explain it very logically as to how I went from homelessness to being housed, and what I had to change in my mind first, and then what I had to change in my life second.
Yep.
Because a lot of it is up here, believing that you can change your life, believing that there's something better out there for you, and then believing that, you know, that people will help you to get there.
Yeah, there's no better person to do that than people that have been through the process, because you're absolutely right. Part of changing your life is empowerment, knowing that you can do it. If you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have a destination, you're never going to get there. And so it's people saying, I can do this. I was where you're at. There's no shame in it. I was where you're at. I had an addiction. I had massive financial issues. I was living homeless. And you don't have to live your life this way. You can change. And I'm going to show you how.
And I really want to employ some of these homeless individuals that are actually working individuals now that are inspiring, empowering other people. They should be the head of these homeless causes. There is actually one person that's actually hired to be the homeless coordinator for the state, and that person works with the governor. You better believe I'm going to appoint somebody that actually has been through the homeless crisis.
If you've been through it, you can talk to people. Because there's two ways. You can talk at people,
right,
and you can talk to people and with people. And so when you talk at them, it's like, it's wah, 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 you don't understand me. But if it's someone else, you can reach out and talk to them and say, I've been where you've been. I can show you how to get out of there.
And you know, the homeless crisis is actually a count. So when you guys talk about the decreased numbers, so when the governor says that, what they're talking about is the point in time homeless count that happens in January, and that is a voluntary count. That means that if you walk up to someone and you say, hey, can you fill out this survey, and they say, I don't want to, that's it. So they're homeless, but you can't count them because they didn't fill out the survey. Do you know that when I went through the encampments on the west side, people actually came out and said, Andrea, I'm only filling this out because you're asking me. Because screw all these guys that have not been helping us. They walk through here, they tell us that we can't be here, they don't help us, they criticize us, they condemn us for what we're doing, but you care, so I'll fill this out. Can you imagine if we actually had people that worked well with these populations, that they would actually come out and work well back? But right now, a lot of them are like, if it's the governor as team, we're not coming out.
We're not touching it. So the numbers are wrong too. And
right.
The numbers are wrong, and there's just absolutely no solutions to this problem. It's just going to get worse. And again, we can't bust them back and forth and say pretend it doesn't exist. It just doesn't work. Now, I do want to talk about the outer islands. I love the Big Island. I go several times a year. We stay up in Kohala Ranch on the North Kohala coast every year. My son loves it there. We take our family. I absolutely love the Big Island. I'm trying to convince my wife to move to Waimea. She tells me no. I love Waimea. I love it there. I keep convinced.
The only place where you have to wear like a snow jacket.
And that's why I love it. It's beautiful. I love the cooler weather. I'm trying to convince my wife to move, and we're not there yet. But the outer islands face different challenges, whether that's Maui, that's Kauai, whether that is Molokai, whether that's Lanai or the Big Island. And we saw a lot of the challenges that the Big Island faced with all of the lava issues, but we can talk about that, but all of the outer islands face unique issues that I think they're underrepresented. I think they're extraordinarily underrepresented. They don't necessarily have the voice that they need to have because the center of the universe is Kaka'ako, Honolulu, right? So what is your message to someone that, whether they're in Kona, whether they're in Pahoa, whether they're Lahui, on the outer islands, saying, why does it matter for me? Why should I vote?
You know, I just ran some ads in all of the Neighbor Island papers, and one of the things that I brought up was all of the things that I will do for Neighbor Islanders. One, you better believe that I was the only legislator that proposed to cut all the Neighbor Islands out of the tax. And not even one legislator in the Senate or the House side had the guts to stand up and say, this tax is unfair. I don't think that the Neighbor Island should be taxed. No one stood up and said that. So I stood up and proposed it as an amendment, and you should have seen the Democrats' faces. They're like, oh, did Tupola just do that? I was like, you guys better stand up and represent your people. Right. It is a tragedy that I am a representative on Oahu and that I'm speaking for people on your islands that don't want to be taxed. Secondly is that I brought up the most important thing for Neighbor Islanders is not being a part of the process. You have to get a flight, then a hotel, then a car ride, and then you got to put meter and quarters in the meter. Then you walk into the state capitol to testify for 2 minutes, and that's how you get to participate in your government.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a hot mess.
I mean, we live in the 21st century. I have committed to the Neighbor Islanders that we will start to do remote testimony, because for the legislature, when we're making statewide decisions and everyone on the Neighbor Islands, one, doesn't know what's going on, two, can't afford to come over and have their voices be heard, that's unfair.
So why can't VTC be utilized?
Easily it
Well,
could be
why
utilized.
can't VTC be utilized?
And I think that that's what the state is always saying, is that they have excuses for everything. Could there be actual live Neighbor Island testifying? Yes, there could. Do you know that in the Kona City Council room, you can testify from Waimea and Hilo? They can see your face and they can interact with you.
So why can't we do that across the island?
We easily could. So it's something as governor that I'm going to do right away. And thirdly, when we have hearings that are important or pertinent to that island, why not have the hearing on their island?
Absolutely. Why not do it on island if it matters? If that hearing is for a pertinent issue on that island, why do it here?
Everything's here. Everything's here because they think, oh, it's just easier for people to fly here. That's not the truth. The truth is that if there's an issue on that island, the hearing should be on that island.
Some local issue should be handled where that local issue is.
Right. And the last thing that I told to all the Neighbor Islands is that their backlog of Department of Education infrastructure projects is bad. So all of the facility repairs for Neighbor Island schools is handled by Department of Accounting and General Services. DAGS is the entity in the state that takes care of all state repairs for facilities. So Neighbor Islanders get to wait in that huge line of state repair facilities and be at the end of that.
Why is that? I've heard that before. Why is that? Why are the Neighbor Island, the DOE facilities, which again are DAGs, why are they in the back of the line and can't get basic things to fix in schools? I mean, why is that?
So Department of Education actually has a facilities branch, but they only service Oahu.
See, I didn't know. I heard that, but I didn't know that was, I thought it was the entire state.
No.
So is that something that can be fixed? Does it need to be fixed, or is it, what's the solution here?
Well, and I think that easily we could have Department of Accounting and General Services give those contracts back and be managed within the DOE facilities. But one, I think it needs to be treated like a crisis. So as governor, I'm going to have to go in and figure out how far is the backlog. I'm going to have to solve all the backlogs and then say, okay, let's start anew.
You've got a lot of work.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of energy for it. You've got a lot of work.
I'm inheriting a hot mess.
But you're going to fix it.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to start, is get these backlogs of buildings taken care of. Kihei High School, it's been vacant. I want to say it's up to 8 years now that they have had the groundbreaking, but no school being built.
Kihei. Yeah.
No school. Yeah, and Paia School, which is in a rural area of Maui, they also are waiting for a new building, and they were told by the legislature that maybe it'll get built in 13 years.
Wow. Jada, we've got about 2 minutes left, and I'd like to give you the opportunity to just talk to the listeners and talk to them so I think they understand who you are, but just the floor is yours.
Well, my name is Andria Tupola. I am running for governor for the state of Hawaii. I am a representative for the west side of Oahu. I'm also the State House Minority Leader. I have been a legislator for 4 years. Prior to this, I was a music professor at the University of Hawaii. I sing and I direct choir. I am a mother of 2 daughters who actually attend public school. They go to Hawaiian immersion. I am Samoan, Hawaiian, Portuguese, German, English, Scottish, and I'm married to a Tongan. Wow. I was born in Kohuku on the north side of Oahu, raised in Hawaii Kai. I graduated Kamehameha schools. I have 2 degrees in music education, and I'm finishing my doctorate degree at University of Hawaii right now. So I just wanted to share with all the people that I am so grateful to be at this point. I have been running for governor for over a year now. I announced it last year, and it's been a very, very good journey for me to meet the people of Hawaii, feel their pain, and have a clear vision to help more local families stay here for generations to come. My main vision is to cut the cost of living so that our people can thrive and not just survive.
Ms. Tupola, thank you so much. You are an amazing woman, and you are just a breath of fresh air for Hawaii. If you're listening, please, you can't just listen, you have to take action. do whatever you can, get out and vote.